Kunja Bihari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtotara Shatashi Srimad Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantara Srimad-Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. It's a bit chilly here. So we'll read from Srimad-Bhagavatam. I actually have a different verse, but anyways, we are continuing to read from or speak about the pastimes of Lord Krishna in his baby stage. So I will read some verses from the Srimad-Bhagavatam 10th canto. Particularly I wanted to read this verse, 10th canto, 10:8:21. Kalena vraja talpena gokule rama keshavau janubhyam sahapanibhyam ringamana uvijachratuhu. So if you can just maybe repeat, try. Not just kalena, of time, vrajata, passing, alpena, a very small duration, gokule, in Gokula, vrajadam, Rama Keshavau, both Balaram and Krishna, Janubhyam, but the strength of their knees, Sahapanibhyam, resting on their hands, Ringamana, crawling, Vijahratuhu, enjoyed childhood play. Translation. After a short time passed, both brother Rama and Krishna began to crawl on the ground of Vraja with the strength of their hands and knees, and thus enjoy their childhood play. So we should first offer our respect to Srimad-Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nashtaprayesha Baddeshu Nitya Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So this is, we spoke last time about different aspects of Krishna, and we spoke also about Namam, the first verse of Damodarashtaka, Namam Ishvaram Sachitananda Rupam. So what is the Namam? What is actually obeisances? What is the somebody offer obeisance to somebody? You know, because we, you know, nowadays we see so pranam, Prabhu. But what is the actual meaning of it? So we spoke what? Yes, but I also spoke like whole lecture about this. And we spoke about how actually invocation, before we do anything in spiritual life, before we speak from the Shastra, because Shastra is not our possession. Shastra is not something we take a book and we read it. This is Shastra. I own the Shastra. When we buy a book in a bookstore, and I own this book. But the Shastra is actually a transcendental personalities. The Vedas are actually not, Vedas as is described, the apaurushaya, not written by a human being. So therefore, before we read the Shastra, it's actually an honor that we actually allowed to read this transcendental book. And therefore, we offer first our prayers. I was speaking also about the Guru, our spiritual master, our spiritual masters, various acharyas, to actually give us blessings so we can read this transcendental literature. Because on our own, we cannot understand. We have no power to understand. Everything actually comes, we are empowered to read the Srimad-Bhagavatam. Or we are empowered to actually practice spiritual life. So this is before we read, you offer, I was reciting these verses, offering a basis to Devim Saraswatim Vyasam, we offer obeisance to the Vyasadeva, who is actually the author of this book. Of course, we know he's not the author, but you can say, transmitted to our language that we can understand. Because we know the first Srimad-Bhagavatam is a Chatushloki Srimad-Bhagavatam, the 4 verses in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and this is, Lord Brahma spoke these 4 verses. And these 4 verses are the essence of Srimad-Bhagavatam. And the essence of Srimad-Bhagavatam describe also, of course, in the first canto and so many other verses, but these 4 verses describe how before Krishna there was nothing. There was nothing. And of course, material world is in this pradhan state, in a state of, you could say, potency of the potential material energy. So when Lord Vishnu glanced in this verse in Brahma Purana, Vedanta Sutra, when Prabhupada quoted many times this word, Sa Aikshata, meaning he glanced. This is just one little line, he glanced. But this glance, actually, Vishnu agitated this material energy, and material energy expanded now, is this what we see right now. And then he infused this material energy with living entities, jivas. And the 3 qualities of material nature are moved, because the 3 gunas in the material world are moved by this glance, and therefore everything is now, we have this mode of ignorance, mode of passion, sama, sattva, tamas, and rajas. Guna in every aspect of our life. We have different bodies, we have all these varieties which actually came from Krishna. So this is the beginning of you can say, Srimad-Bhagavatam, that before Krishna there was nothing, because Krishna is everything. So then this material world was manifested. And then with manifestation of material world, as we always, when we buy a new product, we buy whatever, some player, whatever the latest gadgets, telephone, you get a manual how to use the telephone. So the manual how to live in the material world are called the Vedas. This is how do we actually live? How do we supposed to live? And therefore Vedas have all aspects of life, actually. It's not only talking about God, transcendental subjects, but talks about also how to actually live, we have this Ayurveda, the health part, how to be healthy, how to produce children, how to be married. Everything is there, how to live, how to be friends. We have Artha Shastra, we have weaponry, how to create weapons. In the Shastras, there's description of different weapons which so far we don't have. Weapon, like remember the Shiva was influenced by the yawning weapon. Imagine this weapon. You have a weapon and your enemies yawn. They cannot fight because they're tired somehow or other. So this weapon we didn't discover yet in this material world. We have something which is similar to Brahmastra. Brahmastra, of course, is much more powerful. We see when Ashwatthama sent Brahmastra to kill Maharaj Parikshit. And so this is Brahmastra. Brahmastra is also very much directed. And another thing is for these weapons, they're all, you can say, incited by the mantras. which so far nobody in the material world, we have buttons and these mechanical things, which is of course lower class weaponry. But imagine the mantras, you just chant the mantras and suddenly appear, the weapon appear. The Vajra, whatever, all kinds of different weapons. There's a weapon of foam weapon. How does that look like? I don't know, but a foam weapon. You create a fire and the foam weapon annihilates the fire. So there are different kinds of things. So there's Artha Shastra. There are all kinds of other, there's a Natya Shastra, or dancing, how to dance, how to write the dramas. We know the Rupa Goswami was very expert. Our Rupa Goswami was very expert in writing poetry. And because there are certain strict rules. Nowadays everything is free from the heart. We do all kinds of speculation. We think it's great. Especially modern art. There was recently a scandal. The big. Oh, this is your phone. Okay. They have a Shastra meeting every now and then, so you have to go. They invited to do the Shastra. Well, you're reading Shastra, no? So. What did I start to say? Scandal in the art world. The scandal in the art world was there was a artwork sold for how many millions of dollars, and the artwork was one banana, like fresh banana, glued with a piece of tape. This gray cheapest tape from the OB to the wall, and that was it. Millions. Everyone was like, what has art come to? The speculation has come so far. So, therefore, we have in the Shastras things which we cannot spec. We have also Manusmriti. Manusmriti describes how to actually run the government, the politics. We have a famous political piece called, what's the name of this Italian? Anybody knows the Italian work? No, because it's Spanish. But anyway, middle 17th century or so, he wrote this how to deal with the government, how to do the politics, and everything is about backstabbing and how to cheat this one person to get this position, and it's like terrible. But we have our own Manusmriti, how to actually be a politician, so-called politician. Everything is about honesty, straightforwardness, and following. King has to be very just. This is something almost unheard of. The king has to be just. And so much so, the king has to protect the prajas, their citizens, which nowadays people think like, nobody, maybe, a little aspect, but protect, so much to protect that we have a king, Rantidev, who was running, the eagle came and he said, sorry, one other bird came. Sorry? Pigeon came and he said, please protect me, eagle wants to kill me. So the Rantidev, he said, oh, I will protect you. So the eagle came, he said, I'm also your citizen, you have to protect me too. So I'm hungry, give me food. So King Rantidev cut his own flesh to give it to the eagle. Of course, this was later revealed to be the demigods. This is demigods who wanted to test his honesty, but this is actually the king has to go that far to protect the citizens at any cost. At any cost. Imagine that. And so on and so forth. So the Vedas is an amazing, actually, you can say book or whatever you want to call it, but it's an actually whole concept how to live the life in this material world. But not only that, it also offers you how to improve your life, and this so-called Karma Kanda section, that you can actually go to the heavenly planets. By worshipping different devatas, by doing certain things. We know the Chaturmasya, we are entering Chaturmasya, 4 months. If you do some austerities prescribed in the Vedas, for example, not shaving hair, not cutting the nails, and so on and so forth. How, sleep on the ground, the householders should sleep on the ground. And, there's even the description how you can also eat. You put food on the ground, kitri, and put your hand in the back, and you just eat. This is, I don't know exactly the Sanskrit term, but it's a cow position. You eat like a cow, and you just eat with your mouth, and that's how you eat. This is the description of austerities for householders in Chaturmasya. And by doing this, those who do this, they will next life in Svarga Loka is guaranteed. So, which is much nicer. I can imagine. We don't want to imagine, because if we imagine too much, then we'll go there instead of going to the spiritual world. So we just respect this nice, comfortable position. Everybody likes to have a nice, comfortable apartment, nice, comfortable car. But imagine the spiritual world, in the heavenly planets, everything is so wonderful. This description of Srimad-Bhagavatam, the weather is perfect all the time. How does this look like this? We don't know. All the time, perfect weather. In India, weather is perfect sometime, but many times not perfect, because the heat is unbearable. I spent 3 summers in Vrindavan, and 2 of them I didn't have electricity, because electricity was not going. In the house I stayed, they had no electricity and no fan. Imagine summer in Vrindavan. This is 50 degrees, 52 of Celsius. No electricity. I was young, so now I'll probably die. But when I was young, it was easy. Oh, no problem. For Krishna, tapasya. And I remember I touched the wall, and the wall was hot. Inside of the house, the wall was hot. Everything was so hot. What to speak if you walk outside barefoot? If you want to do parikram on the sand, it's like you get burned. So everybody does that. If they do parikrama, they do at night. Lots of Indian families, they come and do at night, because the day is unbearably hot. Anyways, so you have some nice places, like I was in Hawaii also some years ago. It's very close to the heavenly planets, the closest I guess you can get. The beautiful everything. You walk in the forest, and the avocados are falling from the trees. The fruit, everything is wild, and of course nowadays I don't know, but at that time it was so very nice, beautiful place. So, and also the description of the heavenly planets is, I have to describe this again. My favorite example in the Srimad-Bhagavatam. There's one very big tree, huge tree, many yojanas, whatever, hundreds of whatever kilometers big. And in this tree, it's a mango tree. And each mango is as big as an elephant. And these mangoes don't have stones inside. They're just and no skin. So it's all juicy mango ready to be eaten. And they're all full of juice. We know in season, in June, July, whatever the season is in mangoes in India. I was once, I remember, walking by, and I was chanting, and then the smell of mangoes, there was a shop, and I just couldn't resist. I have to buy some 2-3 kilos of mangoes. So mangoes are very, very smell wonderful. And these mangoes are as big as elephants. And he said that when these mangoes fall from the tree, they break down and the juice start flowing from each mango. Imagine there's hundreds of this fruit. And from this juice, a river forms. River of mango. I mean, this is nice, I don't know what kind of fish live in this mango river, but it must be something nice. Glücklich, yeah. It was a happy fish, So anyway, so this is one tiny description of the heavenly planets. Also we have the dress, the mountains, which are very pleasing. The demigods come with their vehicles, and they go with their demigoddesses, and they go to enjoy in the caves, and everything is favorable breezes. Everything is wonderful. So this is a description of the heavenly planets. So, but we as devotees, we appreciate this. We offer our obeisance to all these things, but we actually are interested in Krishna, because ultimately, in the heavenly planet Svarga Loka, there's all not material. Ma Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartina Arjuna Mamu Petya tu Konteya. What is the last line? So Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, everybody from Brahma to all the planetary systems, this is ultimately all material planets and places of misery. And misery is, for some people who suffer, we see their misery immediately. If people see people in slums, the crazy people, the crime, somebody gets robbed or killed. These are miseries. But those people who don't have miseries, like again, heavenly planets, or people who have a well-off, or people even higher higher than heavenly planets, the planets of the what is described in the uh, Vedic, you can say, cosmology. The higher planets than Svargaloka is the planet of the great sages, Tapaloka, Maharloka. These are the Siddhaloka. These are the people who have perfected their mystic powers, Ashtasiddhis, mystic powers. So how do they suffer? You know, they suffer in a sense that they are not in the spiritual world. They're devoid of Vaikuntha. This is what their suffering is. Because ultimately everything in the material world is temporary, and everybody's meant to die at the end. Even if they have a huge span of life, and he said the Siddhaloka, they can actually travel from one planet to another just by mystic power, which is unimaginable for us. We have to sit in a car and doesn't want to start, whatever. So, but they can do all these things. But still, this is not, siddhas are not exactly siddhas. They are material siddhas, but not spiritual. Because in the spiritual world, everything is unlimited. And the time doesn't exist, first of all. The karma doesn't exist. You know, it is described that karma, each person carries their karma with them. You know, we have our karmas, different kind of karmas, but the most visible is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma means this body, and whatever is meant, destined for this body. If this body is ugly, it's ugly. You can make a plastic operation, but it may not help. Or if body is beautiful, it's meant to be beautiful. It's a prarabdha karma. But also whatever comes with this karma, the activities. Some people are very lucky, you know, so-called lucky, because this is their karma. Their karma is to be successful materially. Some people are unlucky. I was just talking to one lady recently, I don't know where, one of the cities we travel a lot, and she said, the Indian lady, she was, she just, no, they're from Malaysia, I think, yeah, Malaysian. And she was just applying for her, supposed to be upgraded some kind of, in medicine. She has some degree in medicine. And she's supposed to get this degree and she will be, you know, somebody, whatever, in this world. And she supposed to have like 10 points and she had a 9.98. So these two little point two, because of this, she couldn't get this. You know, of course, this was a cause of great distress, but, you know, we spoke about this and she said, this is my karma. Ultimately, this is the karma. Not meant, as we said, not meant to be. Or it was meant to be. Actually, the Shastra said, as Chanakya Pandit said, what is not meant to be will never be. What is meant to be will be, no matter what anybody says. In Bengali, we quote this also, Srila Prabhupada many times says, what is it? Krishna rakeke, rake Krishna mareke. Whatever, if Krishna wants to kill you, nobody can protect you. If Krishna wants to protect you, nobody can kill you. And we see in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, 7th canto, Srila Prahlad Maharaj, here we have an altar, but his father was so evil that he wanted to kill his own son. And he tried to kill him. He threw him under the elephants. The mad elephant was stamping. Nothing happened. Imagine this. How is this possible? But somehow Krishna protected him. And then he threw him into the boiling oil. We know when we cook, you know, few drops of oil fall on your hand and you are screaming half a day. You know, it's oil, oh. And he was thrown, the whole body, a little boy, 5 years old. And nothing happened. He was just standing there with peaceful mind, offering his respects to Nrsimhadev. And then he threw into the snakes, and then on the end he said, "Nah, this is it. I'm throwing to the cliff and down all these sharp stones." And nothing happened. And there's a picture, this is our ISKCON picture, when all these evil soldiers of Hiranyakashipu throwing Prahlad Maharaj, and Krishna is waiting there holding Prahlad, waiting for him to fall. Because this is what Krishna protects. So whatever is our karma is meant to be. So therefore, we as the aspiring devotees of Krishna, we try to practice spiritual life with honesty and earnestly, And one of the aspects is that's why we are reading this Srimad-Bhagavatam and this pastimes, particularly this month of Kartik, upcoming month of Kartik. This is just a warm-up to Kartik, is that we are understanding, I was also speaking this the other day, that hearing Krishna's pastimes is actually a remedy for the diseases of this material world. Just hearing, Shravanam Kirtanam, hearing and chanting the pastimes of Krishna, which is so easy. So this Kali Yuga, the process is so easy. We know Ramayana, Valmiki Muni was meditating 60,000 years. 60,000. Who can sit 60,000? Who can sit 6 hours and meditate 6 hours? This is very difficult. You know, a fly will come, whatever. You know, if you go to the forest, I remember I went to the forest, I was thinking, oh, mode of goodness, And I sat there, the mosquito came, I was like, oh my God, then fly came, and there was something was crawling, and you are wondering I wanted to kind of meditate. It's impossible. So many bugs, and this is not during the day. Imagine what's going on in night. Fox, or who knows what's going to, somebody come to eat you. Oh, thank you, Hare Krishna. So it's very difficult to meditate. And 60,000 years he was meditating. And then finally he got to his realization, the darshan. And he wrote whole Ramayana. It's wonderful. So this age is very difficult for all these things, meditation, huge yagyas, to do. We see description of the Prithu Maharaj, Shri Nrsimhadev Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. We see Prithu Maharaj's how they did these costly yagyas with how much gold and how much ghee, and this is impossible nowadays. You have to have also very qualified brahmanas, which are very few qualified brahmanas. So, what to speak of elaborate deity worship. We have a deity worship, but elaborate deity worship, I can imagine. I was actually reading, I must say this, I was reading this, Ramanujacharya there was appearance there, Ramanujacharya a few months ago, or a month ago, and he would go and he would argue with different philosophers or people who were scholars at that time, and he would defeat them. And at that time people were like this: if you defeat them, they become your disciples, your followers. So there was the one, I forgot his name, he was a Mayavadi, he was an impersonalist. So he defeated him, and he said, oh, I'm sorry, I offended the Lord so much, because actually, by being impersonalist, you are actually offending the Lord, saying that Lord doesn't have hands, doesn't have arms, it doesn't, basically, he said, Prabhupada says, how can you say you love somebody, but that person doesn't have hands, doesn't have form, doesn't have face? So it's a kind of a little bit of offense. And this person said, I offended the Lord and offended you so much, and how can I atone myself? And Ramanuja said, you should take sannyas. This was the atonement. Because we know, again, from Dharma Shastras, there are different atonements for different levels. Meaning for Brahmanas, there's different atonement, for Kshatriyas, different atonement, for Shudras, and for Vaishya. Different, you can say, punishments for different kind of sort of people. So he was coming from a highly Brahmana family, and he said, for you, atonement is to take sannyas. And then you should write a book about sannyas. And I had this book, somehow in my files, I cannot find it, but it's such an elaborate description of sannyas, what sannyas you should do. I was shocked. I was thinking, oh my God, we think we have some difficult, we do the deity worship, but actually this was very elaborate, very detailed description how sannyasi should behave, how should he sit, and all these things. I was thinking, wow, this is you can say remnants from the old days, from the bygone ages, that we in this Kali Yuga, most of the people are difficult to follow. Most of the people are very difficult to follow. So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came only around 500 years ago. And he offered this process of Shravanam Kirtan, chanting the glories of the Lord and hearing the glories of the Lord. So therefore, we are hearing this Krishna's pastime. And says here, the verse, Shrutim apare smritim itare bharatam anya bhajantu bhavabitaha, aham ihanandam vande yasya linde param brahma. Let others, fearing material existence, worship the Vedas, the Vedic supplementary Puranas, and the Mahabharata, but I shall worship Nanda Maharaj, in whose courtyard the Supreme Brahman is crawling. So yes, we study the Shastra, we respect the Shastra, but the process of this age is actually just hearing the pastimes of the Lord. And these are very easy, very easy. You just have to sit and listen. Nowadays we have YouTube, you just put on continuous play and you can just listen, one after the other after the other. So, so therefore, I chose this verse 10:8:21, which says, after a short time passed, both brothers Rama and Krishna began to crawl on the ground of Raja with the strength of their own hands and knees, and thus enjoy their childhood play. It's such a simple thing. Of course, again, in previous lectures I described who is actually Rama and Krishna, Rama, Balaram, and Krishna. That although they both play, you can say, Leela, this is their Leela, to enjoy, Krishna is Adi Purusha, the original enjoyer, and they enjoy these pastimes of being babies. But they're actually eternal, transcendental Godhead, Sacinanandana Vigraha, and I was speaking also about Ishvara, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sacinanandana Vigraha. Anadi Madir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He's a cause of all causes. And he's the Ishvara, he's the supreme controller. But yet, he plays as a child. So, Srila Prabhupada also gives in purport, he explains actually that this Kaivalya, this merging into many people are into Kaivalya. And we always say Kaivalya Narakayate. The Kaivalya, the merging into the impersonal Brahmajyoti is like hell. This is the hell for devotee. For devotee, hell actually does not exist. Because wherever devotee goes, he's always with Krishna. Or she's always with Krishna. So even if they go to hellish planet, they're always with Krishna. Because Krishna accompany Krishna is in everybody's heart. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati. Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantra Rudani Maya. That his body is like yantra, and Krishna is in the heart of everybody, and he accompanies us wherever we go. And therefore, karma lasts as long as we're in the material world. And Paramatma follows us as long as we're in the material world. And Paramatma is giving us sometimes instructions, or sometimes we say, oh, I have a bad feeling about this. This is Paramatma is maybe saying, don't do it, very bad. But we somehow cannot hear it. Anyways, so when we leave everything, we leave the body, we leave our karma behind us, and we enter the spiritual world without any, we can say, baggages. So this is all for the beginning. Before I now go, I want to just say about this like a little introduction, and if you have any questions or anything to say, and then after, I will start speaking about Krishna and Balaram as babies crawling in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. Yes?
One question here. You said hearing, simple process. And so simply hearing Krishna's pastimes. But we see also devotees, or we often have this mentality that I have this and this problems, or this and this suffering or struggle going on. So simple process, just hearing. But then also we kind of are expecting a lot. It's like, okay, I follow this process, but I want then my suffering or my problem to disappear, or I want to advance, or my anatas go away. So is this also the right approach to start this simple process? I want, just by hearing, I get rid of my problems, I become advanced or whatever, but then there's a demanding attitude. I don't know. So it's a simple process, but is this can we also approach this simple process in that mood?
Whatever the mood we approach Krishna will absorb it. We know from the Chaturvida Bhajantamam. 4 people worshiping me. you know, people who are pious, people who are impious, people who are in distress. You know, these are people, we approach Krishna from different angles, or we approach Godhead from different angles. And Krishna absorbs all this, and Krishna purifies. We know people who were inimical to Krishna, who became Krishna devotees. In our ISKCON, for example, I know a few people who hated, they saw devotees and they said, oh, these horrible Hare Krishnas. You know, I know one devotee who actually was, there was, in America they call this, what's the name of this? When they dress in different, anyway, they dress like vampires and all these things. You know, remember this festival? Huh? No, but anyways, there was the one, everybody dresses, I forgot how, Halloween. Everybody dressed like vampire or doctors with blood, whatever, you know, everybody's dressed. So one devotee thought, let's dress some horrible clothes. Let's dress as Hare Krishnas. So him and his 5 friends, they bought some orange cloth, they bought the cloth, they dyed into orange, and they put, you know, how do you call this women's socks which you can put all the way? You know these socks? How do you know these socks? So they put it in the head, like they don't have hair, they're shaved, you know. So this is, and they went out, they got a tambourine and they were chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, on the corner of the street, you know. This was their fun. There was their, you can say they dressed the most horrible way. And then there was like a couple of hours they were chanting Hare Krishna. You know. And then this person who organized this, later on he thought, wow, let me find more about the Hare Krishna. And he actually became an initiated devotee. So we approach Krishna in different ways, and Krishna said, oh, you like it? Okay. Just like Putana, she came to kill Krishna. You know, smear the breast with poison, and Krishna said, oh, you want to give me a milk? Good. So the same way, he said, oh, you want to be Hare Krishnas? Here it is. You want to be Hare Krishnas? You got it. So Krishna is a different, whatever way we approach Krishna, Krishna purifies it. And the process is such that by reading the pastimes, by hearing, you know, the Srimad-Bhagavatam, also the pastimes, also there's lots of philosophy to it. You know, Krishna book, Srila Prabhupada put lots of philosophies, not like just, you know, Prabhupada explains the Rasa Lila dance. What is the Rasa Lila? What is not Rasa Lila? The whole chapter is what is not Rasa Lila. And so on and so forth. If we just hear, the process will work. So therefore, if process somehow we feel this doesn't work, we should hear more. You have these sportsmen nowadays, they practice 8 hours, 10 hours. The whole life is practicing sport, whatever. You know, nowadays the competition is so high, everybody's very pumped up, the best, the most, they break the limits. I remember some years ago, there was this, these bicycle racers, the one who was winning all the time, he said, 6 months before the big Tour de France starts, he is not eating any more normal food. He measures everything he eats, measures. Imagine, 120 grams. They treat, you know, they go to such extreme how much he sleeps. There has to be everything measured, how much he sleeps, how much he eats, how he breathes. You know, so this is all, so I'm just saying the people do go to such lengths for some material thing, so we can also go to such length to hear about Krishna. If we see that something is, I have this desire, I have something, just read more. Read 10 hours. There was one devotee once, he had some problem, he had some lust problem, and he told me, what can I do? I cannot control it. So I told him, well, he was a brahmachari. I said, well, if you want to control it, you can control it. I will just tell you how. And he said, how? I said, okay, stay with me here in the room, and we go to bed at 9:00. We wake up at 3:00, not 3:01, 3:00. Wake up, immediately take shower, and chant. You know, so we chant 16 rounds, and once you chant 16 rounds, morning program, Mangalarti, Guru Puja, and after this, eat 1 bowl of khichdi, only one. That's it, 1 bowl of khichdi. No other, nothing else. And then read until Gaur Arati. This was some 10 hours, I don't know how long is this. Something like 10 hours. And then Gaur Arati, and then prepare a little this and that and go to sleep. And after 3 days, he came and he said, lust is gone. Of course, this is just a temporary, we cannot, it's not so easy process. But I'm just saying, and imagine if you do this for 20 years, for 30 years. Imagine if you have to chant 192 rounds every day and read the rest of the day. Or like Haridas Thakur, he chanted 192 rounds a day, and the rest he was preaching. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also did this. When he was in Mayapur, he was instructed Bhaktivinoda Thakur to chant 192 rounds. He was chanting, and then the rest, free time, he would take the boat, he would go to Navadvip, and he would preach. And meanwhile, he would manage the temple. So this is a full absorption in Krishna. And I cannot imagine that he would think, oh, I have this problem and that problem. And if you read Prabhupada's books, once we were traveling, my wife and myself, and then some situation came up, and then later on we were reading Srimad-Bhagavatam. Prabhupada completely explained this whole situation, what happened, and how to deal with it. So we just have to have a faith in Krishna, have the faith in Prabhupada, and apply the process. If you have some, you can say some doubt or whatever, we should just see, am I applying process? And the process is hearing and chanting. Am I applying the process? There was once a famous pastimes, Srila Prabhupada, in Vrindavan. They were building a temple, Krishna Balaram. And the devotee who was in charge, I think his name was Gargamuni Prabhu at that time. He was, I think, sannyasi, I'm not sure. And he said, Prabhupada, he said, I have no time to read. I'm all day busy. I barely finish my 16 rounds. And then all day I'm buying bricks. And, to build a temple is not easy. You have to buy bricks. Especially at that time, the Westerners in India, they don't know how India function. They don't speak the language, So they have to, go. In Vrindavan, it was a village. It wasn't a city. So it's difficult to get, anyways, material. And so he said, I'm all day counting cement and counting sacks of cement and this and that. He said, I have no time to read. And he said, I sleep maybe 4.5 hours also. I'm so busy. What should I do? So what would anybody answer? What answer do we expect? Oh, it's okay. You don't need to read. Or Prabhupada said, sleep less. Sleep less. So this is the instruction to ourselves. This is how I act. If I see something, I just cut on my, my sense gratification ultimately. And it will work. It works. It's transcendental. It's transcendental. Transcendental must work. So that means that we didn't apply it. Or people say, I have doubts, whatever. Doubts in Krishna consciousness, in the Bhagavad Gita, it says it arises from ignorance. Krishna said to Arjuna, these doubts which arise from the mode of ignorance. Mode of ignorance. So if the doubts are in the mode of ignorance, put ourselves in the mode of goodness. What is the mode of goodness? Wake up early in the morning. If you wake up at 4, wake up at 2. Once Prabhu, actually, I heard this from Braj Bihari Prabhu. He's the Braj Bihari. Anybody knows Braj Bihari? I think he's the ISKCON mediation, for ISKCON mediation and things like this. He's a very senior devotee, and he told me when Prabhu went to Detroit, somehow he was there for some time, because they invited him. There was no people joined. Nobody was joining at that time. Like there was a period of nobody really joined. So Prabhu was an expert, so he's examined the situation. He said, I know what should we do. Everybody wakes up at 12 o'clock in the night, and they read until 2 o'clock. And they chant. And then after the Guru Puja, everybody goes out to preach all day long. And he said, within weeks, new devotees start coming. Of course, they couldn't maintain it, the standard, but this is the answer. Just do extra. Cut on eating, cut on sleeping, cut on talking to anybody. Read, chant. Do extra chanting. Chant 64 rounds. Prabhupada said, 16 rounds, there's a letter, 16 rounds is nothing. For us, it's sometimes a big deal, 16 rounds. Prabhupada said 16 rounds is nothing. He said many devotees in Vrindavan, they chant 120 rounds. So chant 120 rounds. Chant 120 rounds, read 10 hours, and after 1 month, let's see what is the answer. So it's just we don't apply the process fully, because ultimately this is what we're supposed to do. Fully, Prabhupada said, fully surrender to Krishna. Fully. Anyways, I guess this will be it for today, because I don't want to now to get to new. We can continue on Krishna Balaram as babies for the next time, how they crawl in the hoof of Nanda Maharaj. It's just very wonderful description, very sweet pastime, which it's wonderful. Let's leave it as a cliffhanger for the next lecture. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. So as you mentioned the importance of Shravanam, when we hear the lectures, so how to perceive these lectures in a proper way? Like for an example, if some sannyasi or senior Vaishnavas or like you, when you speak, we understand it, but how to implement it correctly? For an example, as you said, Krishna says, completely surrender unto me. Now I understand, okay, I have to surrender unto Krishna, but I have to do my efforts also. At the same time, I have to do my responsibility. So this is what little maturity comes after so much of time, but how to continuously grow in this maturity, or how to understand properly what the speaker is trying to convey, and at the same also the second question, how to implement it in a proper way, not in a fanatic way or just trying to copy, because he said 10 hours, okay, I start the clock and do it in 10 hours, because you have that taste and I don't have that taste, and if I try to imitate, I'll be in problem. So how to differentiate this, both the things?
Well, first of all, this, in one sense, this mentality is a cop-out. You know what cop-out means in English? It means taking an easy way and said, oh, no, I cannot do. They are only for them advanced devotees. Not for me. I'm lowly. This is called cop-out, as Prabhupada would sometimes call laziness. The spiritual life is very dynamic, and spiritual life is for everybody. Especially, this process of given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no excuses, basically. We know the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, my mother was a pure devotee of the Lord. As she had 12 kids, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's wife. So there's no excuses, ultimately. I'm sure she was engaged in hearing and chanting. As we say, I do it in my own way. But I do it in my own as much as I can, but I always try to improve. When the first time I started doing yoga, I'm still at the very beginning stage, since after 20 years, because I'm lazy and do yoga once a week or once a month for 2 days, and I think, wow, this is so good for the health, and then I just forget about it. So when the first time, I remember this one devotee, he was teaching me. He was from Iyengar yoga, in South India, from Pune, and so he I said, oh, I can't. I said, no. He said, every day you try to do a little, push yourself a little bit higher, so you can try to touch the knees in the beginning. Try to touch a little lower, little. So like this, every day we try little to add a little something. In that way, our process is dynamic. It's not static. If you have a static process, it's very nice. It's wonderful. By, as you say, putting drops in the cup, ultimately cup will be filled. But we have to always try to endeavor a little bit. Try to when we hear this pastime. Okay, how can I relate to this? How can this, think about this? How can I relate to this? And this is the one thing. And another thing is we should all, as spiritual practitioners or aspiring spiritual practitioners, have a spiritual guide or guru. We have different gurus, Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru. Nowadays we call it mentor in India. Everybody's called mentor, mentorship program. But it's actually a guru. In the traditional, is a Shiksha Guru, person who instructs you. And you see with your Shiksha Guru, therefore, Shiksha Guru should be a person who knows you. Diksha Guru sometimes comes and give initiation, they know your name, if they remember your name. If, the Guru has 60,000 disciples, I think it's very difficult to remember everybody's name. I heard this lecture of Bhakti Kasami recently. He said he has over 10,000 disciples, and he said, please do not expect everybody that I know your name. I mean, 10,000 people. I mean, sometimes they give initiations for, 100 people. You cannot remember everybody's name. So this is like human. But therefore we have Shiksha Gurus. A Shiksha Guru sometimes can be a Diksha Guru, but this Shiksha Guru should be a person who knows you, who knows your history, where you join, how did you join, your heartbreaks or whatever. He knows everything. And he said, this is not a good idea for you. You should do this. Or you should try now this. I'm chanting 4 rounds, and you should try 6. And we should take these instructions very seriously. You have this developed in India, more or less. In the West, we still don't have developed the Shiksha Guru system, you can say. They call it counselor. Because here we have a guru comes once a year, and we're like, oh, Guru Dev, and everybody else is like, not important. But Shiksha Guru should actually, he should be actually, philosophically, is not different from Diksha Guru. And this person should tell you, I think you should go for this now. Or do we have a morning programs? I don't have it. That you should start a morning program, for example. So, and this is another thing. And another thing is that Krishna consciousness is open for everybody. It is not only for the chosen few, it's for everybody. Everybody. For Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, for everybody. Lord Chaitanya opened the door or storehouse of love of God for everybody. So we just have to, again, not be lazy and think like only this sannyasi can do it, only senior do it. No, I'm actually, it's my responsibility. Lord Chaitanya said, I brought this fruit of love of God, but nobody wants to take it. What should I do? I cannot carry it back now. I'm not going to take it back. This is when he went to Varanasi. I'm not going to take it back. So you have to, each of us, we are responsible for our own spiritual life. We are responsible, nobody else. So when we understand this, okay, I'm responsible. Nobody's going to take my hands and chant Hare Krishna. I have to actually do it. I have to wake up. I have to offer obeisances. I have to do this. It's my responsibility. And I have the responsibility to develop, as we say, Krishna Prema. It's my responsibility to develop this. Each of us. Okay, anything else? Or should we call the day? Okay, thank you very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Simhadev ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna.